Sunday, when we were leaving, Sunday morning I believe it was, or sometime, some of you know that Billy and Della's daughter and her husband and their son, they're fixing to leave, I think it's this weekend. And I've been on mission trips before, but my longest has been 3 weeks, and I thought that was over and above. But they're fixing to go on a trip for a couple of years, and they're going to. She'll tell us where it is. But I asked her to come tonight and to share with us. If it takes 5 minutes, if it takes 50 minutes, it's all good, Beth. So whatever, it's fine. I'm prepared either way. You will not get out early. I'll just assure you of that. Before you get your hopes up tonight. But anyway, I asked Beth to come and to share a little bit about what they're doing and going to do. So Beth, come ahead. And is this one okay? This be okay?
I don't think his mom is here to give him the honor to cut it off, so I won't take too long. Thank you all for letting us speak tonight. I'm sorry that my husband Aaron can't be here tonight. He is in Shreveport helping our daughter with some dad projects before he leaves for a couple of years. So he said he didn't get the sheetrock up in time to get here. So pray for him and be patient with me. My husband Aaron retired from the active duty service in the military after 25 years on August 11th. And so this is our first thing in our new job. And I kind of feel, if you're familiar with the military at all, I feel a little bit like a second lieutenant. We're committed, we're commissioned, but we don't know at all what we're doing. So just be patient with us. We are going to East Africa with the Rafiki Foundation, and that is a nonprofit organization that was founded by Rosemary Jensen, who was the executive director for Bible Study Fellowship for 20 years. She retired from that job a few years back. So Rafiki means friend in Swahili, and that is what the foundation does. They befriend Africans in their time of need. So the mission for the Rafiki Foundation is to help Africans know God and to raise their standard of living. And they do that through 5 programs, and those programs are child care, education, a widows program, a Rafiki Institute. This is the new one. It's the Rafiki Advanced Learning Institute, and then Bible study. And the Bible tells us that we can know God, and we know God through studying His Word, and we know who Jesus is through the study of His Word. So that is Rafiki's main function, is to teach Bible study. And so Aaron and I have the privilege of teaching Bible study to national workers, or to students, or to anyone that Rafiki touches in that village. They will have an in-depth Bible study that covers all 66 books of the Bible. It was written by Rafiki. Theologians donated their time to write this Bible study. It's an exegetical study, I think that's the right word, where you just go book by book, word by word through the Bible. And it covers, by the time the students finish school, they will have studied all 66 books of the Bible, which is pretty amazing. And that changes hearts and that changes lives, and that's what we really are about. But we also, I wanted to tell you a little bit about two of those things that they do. I can't get my thoughts together here. I want to tell you a little bit about the child care program, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about the education program. So when you think of Africa, there are lots of images on television, on the internet. I have a great video I wish I could show you. I'll tell you the website that you can go and look at it about Rafiki. But you have an image of Africa in your mind already. And you know that there's great need there, as there are in so many different places. But it is truly a land of contrast. It's modern in many places, yet it's very primitive. It's fertile. Where we are going in East Africa, it's very lush and green and vibrant. But then you see, there's deserts and there's famine, so that's a contrast there. It's filled with vitality and plenty in many places, yet there is disease and squalor in so many other places. AIDS, Dad and I were having a conversation just before we left the house of why can't Africa, why is it such a developing area? Well, there's so many just basic factors. There's disease, such as the HIV/AIDS virus that wiped out a generation, if you will, war, corrupt governments, just famine. We have, droughts. We have that here in the States even. They've left a multitude of orphans and vulnerable children. And the majority of these children are malnourished, they're uneducated, and they are often left without the most basic protection that they need. And so were sort of the heart of the Rafiki Foundation's work. Back in the early 90s when the HIV/AIDS virus was ravishing Africa, one of the leaders of the country, Rafiki had already been working in Africa and some other nations with widows and vulnerable children. And so she came and asked our founder if we could help her with these just orphans that were everywhere. And so land was donated to the foundation and an orphanage was built. And that was the heart of where Rafiki is now. We are in 10 different countries, and I'm going to read them to you because my mind's not just all together tonight. We're in Liberia, Ghana, Nigeria, and those are in West Africa. In East Africa, we're in Ethiopia, Uganda, Rwanda, Kenya, Tanzania, Malawi, and Zambia. And these are 10 of the poorest countries in the continent of Africa. And Rafiki has built a village in each of these countries, and each village houses about 100 orphans. Of course, we don't call them orphans anymore because they have a home. Rafiki works with social welfare to find children in need, or just sometimes people bring them. They're often abandoned children, but they are the legal guardians of each of the children. So it is a legal entity there. They provide a home, nutrition, education, an excellent education. And really the goal is to rescue them not just from physical darkness and malnourishment, but also spiritual darkness as well. So 10 children live in a cottage with a Rafiki mother. That mother is a widow who has been hired by Rafiki and is committed to raising these 10 children. And when the children reach the age of about 10, they're separated into boys' dorms and girls' dorms. And a married national couple will then raise those children, because we know that children work best in a family where there's a mother and a father. And so, Dad and I were talking, the goal is not to raise Americans or to adopt the children out to homes. It's really to raise up a generation of leaders in each country. So they are taught their tribal language, but they're also taught English, because in each of these countries it is an English is the language of business. So that is a valuable skill set for those children to have, to be able to speak English well. It qualifies them for a better job, but it also helps them to get into a better university where they will also be taught in English. Now, the education is another one of the programs that Rafiki has. And I'm just going to give you some statistics that some people like them, some people don't, but they help me wrap my mind around things. So 47% of out-of-school children worldwide are from sub-Saharan Africa. And that's that part of Africa below the Sahara Desert. So for those children who do get to attend school, there is an almost constant attrition rate, which means they're constantly leaving school due to the poor quality of school and then the inefficiencies of that education system. For example, you can have students in a class, 100 students in a classroom with one teacher and no supplies. And if you're educators, you know that 30 students in a classroom with all the supplies you can have is a challenge in itself. But the majority of children who do attend school barely reach 4th grade. That's about the level of education that they get. The purpose of the education system that Rafiki has is a classical school for those students, and classical is a little bit different than what a public school here in the States would teach. But classical education focuses on what is good and beautiful and true. Those are taught that way. They're taught how God is in every part of our education. God is not just at church. God is not just when I'm doing my Bible study, but God is involved in science. God is involved in music. God is the great creator. He is the master artist. So he is in all of this. And so that gives them a high view of God, as we all desire for ourselves, to have a high view of God and a high view of humanity, that we are his image bearers. and that he has a plan and a purpose for each of our lives. Now that's exciting for us to hear in the States where we have access to everything we could possibly want. But imagine that to a child who doesn't even celebrate a birthday because who knows if they're going to be alive again the next year. So that's one of the things we're excited about, is just this excellent education system. It also gives a biblical worldview, which means that everything, and we should all have this, as believers in Jesus Christ, we should have a biblical worldview. We should filter everything that comes into our senses through, what does God think about this? What does the Bible say about this? Is this true? It sounds really good, but is it true? Is it what God says? And so I was reading an article about, many of you remember the genocide in Rwanda several years ago, and I was reading an article about education. It was a classical education magazine, and it was an African pastor who was saying that if they had had education, a good education system, possibly there wouldn't have been this genocide. Because this was not Muslims killing Christians or Christians killing Muslims. These were Christians killing other Christians because they were from a different tribe. And so these were uneducated people who were following highly educated leaders who were telling them, this is what God wants you to do. Now, that doesn't just happen in Africa. We've seen that happen in other places. But imagine, it struck me, if they had been taught simply what God's word truly says, could it have truly stopped a war, the heinous crime? So that, that's that thing we want to instill in our children, and even here in ourselves, a godly worldview. What does God really say? And what does it say? Not because this man is telling me that, but what does it say in the Bible? And how can I know him that way? So that's what the orphans, the resident children, the K through 12 school, it's a certified school. Those are on the villages. The next hurdle for education, though, are qualified teachers. One of the countries, and I believe it was Malawi, the director of education for the country fired many, many teachers because it was determined that they couldn't read at an elementary level. So these were teachers not in a vocational school, but teachers who were university graduates. And so Rafiki, the next level for us is to have a teacher training program, and they call it the Rafiki Advanced Learning Institute. And that is a 3-year program where you will, teachers will be trained, they're high school graduates, who will go through a 3-phase program where they will be certified to teach at the end of the 3 years, K through 6th grade. And we hope that these graduates will come back and teach in a Rafiki school, but if not, we hope that they will go and teach in a church school, or start their own program, start their own day school. Every student you have to pay for school in African countries. It's not free public education. So you're paying for uniforms and supplies. So we're hoping that we can help some of these graduates start their own day schools, so they will have a job. It also impacts more. Now, Rafiki has written the curriculum for their school, and the reason for doing that is because since we've written it, we print it, we own it. So we can give it to not just our own schools on each village, but we can give it to the partner church schools. In every country, we're partnering with a church who has schools, and we can give them this curriculum, because right now all they have are the national secular curriculums. So again, that godly worldview, even in a church school, they may not be getting that Bible-based curriculum. So in the country of Uganda, where we're going, we are partnering with a church there that has 6,000 church schools. So we are hoping to train teachers, and we have a curriculum ready to go that we can give to them, that they can use, again, that is teaching not just excellent art, math, science, and all of that, and really a very well done curriculum, but also teaching with that godly worldview. So again, imagine how a country and a world can be changed just through that simple, in that one country. My partner is not here to keep me on track, so somebody just throw something at me. And Aaron and I have talked about this a little bit. There's a call to salvation first. God calls us to know him through his son, Jesus Christ. But I think God is always at work, and there's a continual call on believers' lives. He doesn't save us just so we can go to heaven. I mean, he does that, and that's grace, but he also He saves us to do good works that he planned in advance. Paul tells us in Ephesians that he has good works already planned for you to do, and that God is always at work, and he invites us to come in and do this work with him. He could do it totally without us, but he graciously allows us to reap that benefit. Aaron and I have been a believer since I was a teenager. Aaron was saved when he was in his early 20s. We grew up here in East Texas. My mom and dad are Bill and Della Lufkin, and my husband's parents are Fred and Joyce Smith. So we grew up in families who took us to church as infants and who have lived a life of service. If you know my parents or Aaron's parents, you know that they are people who not just talk about God, but they live out a godly life, and my dad has done amazing things just to help us, and my mom too, that they go out of their way to serve people. And so we grew up with that model, and so it was very easy for us to have a desire to serve others. We have had a relationship with Rafiki Foundation since about 1996. I learned about it when I was attending a Bible study fellowship class in Great Falls, Montana. And then while we were stationed later in Shreveport, Louisiana, I had the opportunity to go on a mini mission trip to West Africa, to Accra, Ghana, and stayed for a couple of weeks in Rafiki village. And I don't really have the skill set to be a missionary. I've always said Aaron has all the skills. He can build anything. He's almost as good as my dad. He's almost there. But he can pretty much, anything he puts his hands to do, God has gifted him to help him to do it well. But I can hold babies and I can read, so I could do that for a couple of weeks. But that was just an exciting thing for me to get out, to go and see that part of the world. So I came back, and later we were stationed in San Antonio, Texas, which is where the Rafiki Foundation's home office was at that time. So I went and volunteered there and was able to go and work there for a couple of years until we moved again. And so again, God showed me that organization from the inside out, and I really knew that, a lot of people look good on the outside and they put a good front up and it sounds really great. But when you get to know somebody and you work closely with them, you can tell, is this real or not? And I saw work done on the inside with excellence and integrity, and so we just continued a close relationship with them. We have just been stationed in Tampa, Florida, and during all of those years, Aaron and I have lived many places. In the meantime, Rafiki Foundation transferred their office to Eustis, Florida, just north of Orlando. So about a year ago, I told Aaron, I just want to drive over and say hi to my friends. And he said, okay. So I drove over and said hi, and the director said, well, what's going on? And I said, well, my husband will be retiring in a couple of years, but we have no idea what we're going to do. We're just praying about that. We have a lot of options. And she said, what, have you thought about Rafiki? And I thought, well, yeah, I have, all the time. My family calls me a road wizard. The door's open, I'm going to go. I'm happy to get on the road and go somewhere. But my husband, I said, he wouldn't go. He just doesn't have a call for missions. And so Karen said, just come over, attend a mini mission training for a couple of days, see what we're doing. We've expanded our mission a little bit, come find out. And said, okay. And I asked him, and luckily for me, it was Valentine's weekend, and we had a babysitter. And Aaron knew from experience when I worked at Rafiki that when they do an event, you eat really good. So he'll tell you, if you were here, that he just went because he knew he'd get a good meal and that I would get off his back. So we went to the training, and again, just as we sat through that training, and I don't know, Pastor, if you feel this way, I was like, how do you know God is calling you to do something? That just sounds like a huge word, and it's such a big deal. And all I can say is that as we sat through that training, God just began to show us how he had prepared us for this time in our lives to be really ready to go and do this type of thing for a couple of years. We've lived overseas. We've been away from our family for 25 years. We know how to Skype. We know a little bit about culture shock. We have had, my husband has been in a management position basically for his military career. He's very good at that. I've worked in nonprofit organizations. I know how that works. So we just kind of thought, you know what? Maybe we could do this, but I'm not really sure. Let's pray about it a little bit. And at the end, Karen, the director, said, well, I just ask you to go home and just pray about it. Just tell God, what do you want me to do, God? I will do whatever you want me to do. I just surrender my life to you. And so we left. And I really didn't think about it again. I thought, I will just go on another mini mission trip at some time when God gives that opportunity. And Aaron continued the conversation. And he began to say, and he will tell you, I've heard him say it and I laugh, he says, I didn't pray that prayer for a week. Because I knew if I prayed it, then I would have to do it. And he said, God just kept it on his heart. And he prayed, God, if this is what you want, I will do whatever you want me to do, wherever you want me to do it. And so the conversation became not should we or if we, but when are we going to go? And I told you we've been praying about retirement for a while, and there was nothing fitting out there. He worked for the U.S. Special Operations Command, and so he could really, many people, when they finish the military career, you can walk into get hired on as a contractor or a civil service position, and so those positions were there. There was never really a fit. And when we said, God, we'll do this, we would like to do this, we prayed about it with our family, they were not really excited about it, and I don't blame them, this is hard. But God began just putting the pieces in place, and we had a peace about it. And that sounds so trite and so Christianese, but there's no other way to say it. And God just really gave us a peace about it. And even though it was difficult, it's still difficult. I just said goodbye to my daughter and grandson today. I sent them on a plane back to California. I know that if I didn't go at this time, I would be missing something. It was as if Jesus was saying to me, if you don't go, that's okay, because I don't really need you, but you're going to miss something. And I just don't want to miss it. I want everything that God has planned for me, and I'm greedy, and I'm selfish, and I want it, and I want to experience it. So that's where my heart is. Aaron and I will, and I don't want to take our time picture, but Aaron and I will be working in Uganda. We were assigned, on July 13th, we were commissioned with the Rafiki Foundation as missionaries, and we were assigned to Kampala, Uganda. Now, I had to look up where Uganda was on a map, because until I've lived in a place, I don't really know geography. So Uganda is a landlocked country in East Africa. If you've seen a map of Africa, there's a big lake about here. That's Lake Victoria. And Uganda is on the shores of Lake Victoria. It's got Tanzania on the southern border. It has Rwanda on the western border, Kenya on the eastern border, and South Sudan on the northern border. So it's about the size of Oregon. It has mountains, and we got some pictures of our house. There's a pine tree in the front yard of my house. And I thought, God, you are so funny. You know that I love pine trees, and you put pine tree right beside my porch. So that was surprising to me, though, to see how lush it was. I want to just give you a few facts, because these help wrap your head around things. There's about 37 million people in Uganda. The capital is Kampala. The languages are English, Ganda or Lugandan, and many local languages. I think a few people do speak Swahili, because that again is a trade language in that part of Africa. It's about 84% Christian, about 12% Muslim, and other is about 3%, and that could just be tribal religions, and then about 1% just claim no religion. The life expectancy is 54 years old, which is really high for Africa. We were surprised that it was that high. Now, a statistic that really struck my heart was the median age is 14 years old, and about half of the population is under 14 years old. Now, imagine that. That's that. We were talking about the great need. And this is a question we get all the time. Why can't you just stay here? Isn't there a need here? Well, yes, there's a great need here in the United States. There's a great need in many other parts of the world. We just saw the flooding in South Louisiana. That was devastating. But here, we have infrastructure. We have a government that's stable and that can help with that. We have churches that are wealthy enough to help with that. So there's a great need here, but there's a great resource here. Africa doesn't have that. Sometimes it's simply because there are no grown-ups there. There are no people to go and work and to bring that in. So that was an eye-opening thing for me. There are about 2.7 million orphan children in the country of Uganda. And if you looked at, I've got some pamphlets back there if anybody wants to take any that just can give you some more African statistics. But I don't want to take anything that's wrong, so I'll just say that for the paper. The Rafiki Training Village is about 1 hour north of Kampala, Uganda, and again, you can see that on the map. I have some prayer cards that will show you where that is. It's on 55 acres, and it's in the district of Wakiso. Dad and I were trying to find it on Google Earth, and we haven't found it yet. But, it's kind of like go to the barn and turn left, or the instructions on how to get to the village. There's about 22 buildings on the facility, and my husband is going to be the plant manager or the facility manager, which I think he's getting some practice in that right now, preparing my daughter's washroom. He's done some plumbing, he's done some electrical work, hanging some sheetrock, so I think I said, Aaron, God's for getting you ready for Africa. He said one of the things that struck him, though, someone told him, but you're going to be teaching people, your national workers are going to be helping you to fix the satellite or to do the plumbing or to fix the electricity, and they're going to go back to a home that has no plumbing and has no electricity. So, there's a learning curve there as well. So, lots of things to be excited about. There are some of the foods that we can eat are pineapple, papaya, mango, beans, matoke is boiled banana, posho, which is boiled cornmeal, and I don't know if that's grits, in South Korea grits, and then chapati, which is fried tortillas. So I think I can handle tortillas. That'll be good. There are about 45 Ugandan staff, and there will be 6 career missionaries on the village when we get there. We have 98 residents. The youngest student is 6 years old, and the oldest is 18-year-old. And right now, I thought this was fun to share with you all. The staff and children's favorite hymn is "To God Be the Glory," and their favorite Bible verse is James 1:27. And that is religion that is pure and undefiled before God is the Father is this, to visit orphans and widows in their distress, and to keep oneself unstained from the world. So that will give you kind of an idea of what the heart of these children are. So that's enough about me. I just wanted to challenge you guys. What is your retirement plan? I don't know if my dad is ever going to retire. He's past the 50-year mark, so I think doesn't want to have to do my honey-do list maybe, but I will encourage you that from Henry Black, I believe, if you've done the study Experiencing God, he challenged us in that study that, again, God is always at work around you. He invites you to become involved in his work. His invitation for you to work with him always leads you to a crisis of belief that requires faith and action. And you come to know God as you obey him, and he can accomplish his work through you. So I wanted to tell you what God is doing through Rafiki Foundation, but I have some pamphlets and things back there if you want to see what they're doing and ways that you can become involved. There's everything from orphan sponsorship to sponsoring a day student. There's so many ways that you can pray. You hear people say, just pray for me. It's not just pray for me, pray for me. And we have some prayer cards that have some daily prayer topics on there. One of which is pray that we'll find an African church when we go there. We want to live in Africa. We want to go to an African church. And we've seen this in our lives, that when you pray ahead, God answers those prayers. And he will prepare a church family for you already. You are an answer to prayer for me. I've been praying for a long time that my mom and dad would find a church home that loved them. And I can't even, I'm probably going to tell you this, when they told us about coming here and about how many friends they had here, I thought, God, thank you that at this time, at this hard time, when we're going away for a couple of years, that he has provided a loving family that will encourage them as they are away from their children. So I thank God for you all. I want you to know that. And that's all I have. I just encourage you to, if you don't, God may not be calling you to Africa, but he is calling you to something. He's not calling you just to sit. There's no retirement in God's plan. Moses started when he was 80. So I just challenge you, listen, because he's talking to you, and he wants you to be involved for your good and for his glory. So thank you for your time.
Anybody have any question that you'd like to ask Beth that she didn't answer? Go ahead.
If we could write you later, say you're going to leave pretty soon, and say a month from now, do you have an address we can actually write?
Yes, sir.
From here to there?
Yes, sir. I have
Say
prayer.
we're praying for you. How you doing? What's
Yes.
the weather at that day?
Yes, exactly. I was writing to the village administrator. She's actually Chinese and she's in Singapore now, so it's like we're all over the world. But we've had people ask things like, where are you going to get your groceries? Is there a toy store? You know, how far is this and that? So I'm eager to, again, I don't know anything about this yet, so I'm eager to answer those questions. And on your prayer card, there's a P.O. box that is our mailing address. But our email address is on there as well, and you're welcome to email us. And it's about an 8-hour time difference, so we'll get back to you when the satellite's working and we're awake.
Anybody else?
Are you taking your children? Yes, thank you. I forget my children. My son's birthday is tomorrow. Our youngest, we have 4 children. 27-year-old daughter Rachel, a 25-year-old son Levi, a 22-year-old daughter Jordan, who's the mother of our grandchild, and then our 9-year-old, 10-year-old son Nate. And Nate is going with us. And when we first started talking about this, he wasn't going to go. He said, no, I don't want to go. I'll stay with my cousin Jan. And we said, Nate, it's 2 years. He said, that's okay. He wasn't, he wasn't mad. He said, I won't go. But we sent his Legos and his bike on. And so he's committed now. He's ready to go. He will be attending the Rafiki school with the resident orphans there.
Anybody else?
I think the parents need to stand up if they're here. I don't know them.
Oh,
I want to know them.
Yeah. Bill and Della, stand up. There they are.
Oh, okay.
I think Fred and Joyce, they used to be members here. Seen them Sunday at lunch. Anybody else? Anybody? Okay.
Thank you for your time.
I think it's about 10 till. Is that about right? 12 till. I'm not going to. I can't even give an introduction in 12 minutes. But next Wednesday we will start in the book of Acts. Somebody told me one time when I was a young preacher, I've never done this. I've been in the ministry for almost 35 years. And said that a church needs to go through the book of Acts every 2 or 3 years. And I've never done it. I've never preached or taught through it. So we're going to. And my aunt, she seen a post I made on Facebook today about doing that, and she said, our preacher did that, and it took 4 years. She said, will it take that long? I said, they'll run me off before 4 years, and we'll never know. It's kind of like that commercial about the lifesaver pot. The wise old eye, you never know. All right. Anything else? Let me share this. This was last Wednesday night, and I forgot to share it with you. But I talked to Joe Flory. It may have been 2 Wednesdays ago, but anyway, it was Wednesday morning. So they were getting ready to start their first day of language school, and the kids are in their school now, and they were going to start language school. It'd be 2 weeks ago now. So they're getting that going, and so he said we know enough to go order a hamburger or a piece of chicken or something. He said we couldn't carry on the conversation with anybody. So anybody, he asked that, to continue to pray and thank you for the support financially and all that stuff. So, but they're doing well, and so continue to keep Joe and Darcy. I remember the kids' names. Callan and Evangeline. Okay. So remember, is one of these flags where you're going, Beth?
I didn't see it, but I will get you one.
We'll get one. We'll hang it up. Well, we need to put signs over these flags so we know where they're at. But one night I almost thought that was the Texas flag. All right. Anything else? Sunday was good, and Eddie told me Monday that the audio did not record. So we have the last 10 minutes. So if the last 10 minutes of it was your favorite part, we can fix you up. But if you missed the first 35 or however long it was, then you missed out. So, but anyway, it was good. It was a good day, good service. So appreciate everybody coming. Anything else?
Brother Steve,
Yes.
they need to save this to next Wednesday night?
Yeah, if you can. Either that or leave it. We'll just put it back in your bulletin next week. If you want to leave your outline on the table, we'll pick it up. That's fine. Stick it in your Bible and bring it back next week. We'll run a few more extras. So, but anyway. Now, some of you do and some of you don't. We're not going to know who did and who didn't. So we'll just have some out. It's going to be the first, whatever the first Wednesday in October. And I'm in the process of getting, or I need to be in the process. I've looked at pictures. We're going to have a coffee cart built so we can wheel it up yonder. And I know the signs say no coffee in the new building. We're going to move that barrier to the sanctuary so we can drink coffee in the foyer and the hall area, but we still won't take it in the sanctuary. So help us with that. And you can come a little early, and we'll put some chairs in the foyer, and you can sit and visit, all that stuff. You just can't eat while I preach, so I was just going to do. I guess you can sit in the foyer and watch it on television on the closed circuit. They have a bigger crowd out there than we have in the sanctuary. Who knows? All right. I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate Beth coming and sharing and give us a face and a name to pray for us. We see that every week on our bulletin, and so let's be careful to do that. So, Beth, if you'll kind of hang around back there and stop and get a prayer card or whatever it is that she's got, if you want one of those, and so you can see her on your way out. Well, what was her favorite song? To God Be the Glory? Let's let that be benediction. Where you at, Carol?
How about help with tables?
When we get done with that, we need to take the tables down and the chairs. They're having superhero something in here Saturday, so we just put these tables and chairs back up about an hour and a half ago. Corey and Eddie and I. Had we known that, we would have only had chairs. We would not have had tables tonight. But we didn't know that, so anyway. You find it? 66. I knew it was 60-something of it.
Steve, you don't have to.
No, Eddie did it. Eddie did it.
Oh, okay.
You told me to remind you.
Anything else we need to mention? This will be our benediction, so you don't mention it now. Speak now, forever hold your peace kind of deal. All right, well, let's sing this. God be the glory, great things we have done, so lovely the world that He gave us His Son, who yielded His life and atonement for sin, and opened the life gate that all may go in. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord. Let the earth hear His voice. Praise the Lord, praise the Lord. Let the people rejoice. Oh, come to the Father through Jesus the Son, and give Him the glory. Great things we have done. Amen.